Welcome in everybody to another lesson. Today we are starting the final 3 lessons of Basic Math 2. Then after that it's on to Pre-Algebra. But you guys have made it this far. You have done awesome. And look at where you've come now. Look how far you've come. You're almost ready to wrap up Basic Math 2 here. So I can tell you these next 2 lessons are actually going to be easier than the previous 2 lessons that we've done. Today we are focusing on multiplication of real numbers. And there's only 3 cases for it, so it's actually quite simple. Of course, first off, you would have a positive times a positive. You have a positive number times a positive number. Well, that's easy. We've been doing that all along. Let's say, for example, you have 3 times 5. Well, you have a positive times a positive. So anytime you have a positive times a positive, we know that equals a positive. Pretty simple. Classic example of 3 times 5, we have 15 for the answer. These are the types of multiplication problems we've been doing all along since Basic 1 all the way up till now. We've been doing positive times positive. Really not much to see there. Therefore, I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on that. However, let's do negative times negative. Positive times positive is what we've been doing all along for multiplication, so I'm not spending much time on that. But negative times negative, whenever you have a negative times a negative, that's going to equal a positive. So negative times negative is positive. So now let's say I have negative 3 times negative 5. I got negative 3 times negative 5. Well, a negative times a negative is a positive, and 3 times 5 is, well, 15. So I would get positive 15 for the answer. Negative 3 times negative 5. 3 times 5 is 15. Negative times negative is a positive. Let's do a couple more examples of that. Let's say I have negative 17 times negative 2, right? I got negative 17 times negative 2. Well, 17 times 2 is 34. Negative times negative is a positive. You would get positive 34 for that answer, because a negative times a negative makes it positive. Let's do one more example here of negative times negative. Then let's see, we have negative 500 times negative 2. So we got negative 500 times negative 2. Well, 500 times 2 is 1,000. Negative times negative is positive. So the answer we would get is positive 1,000. So negative times negative just makes it a positive number, and then you just do the multiplication like you would with any whole number. I mean, there's not much to talk about here with negative times negative either. It just turns it positive. Now, let's take a negative times a positive. Negative times positive will give you the exact same result as positive times negative. It doesn't matter which order you do it in for multiplication. If you have a negative times a positive, you'll get a negative. If you have a positive times a negative, you'll also get a negative. So whenever you have negative times a positive or a positive times a negative, you'll get negative for your answer. So let's say I have negative 3 times positive 5. Negative 3 times positive 5, well, 3 times 5 is 15, but you have a negative times a positive, you would actually get negative 15 for the answer. So the answer for that is negative 15. Or let's say I have positive 7 times negative 3. So I got positive 7 times negative 3. Well, positive times a negative is a negative. 7 times 3 is 21, so you would get negative 21 for your answer. And then I'll do one more here. Let's see, then we'll do 300 times negative 3. We got 300 times negative 3. Well, a positive number times a negative number makes it negative, and 300 times 3, well, that's 900. So the answer we would get is negative 900. So multiplication of real numbers is actually quite simple. Of course, a positive times a positive is a positive. A negative times a negative is a positive. And then whether or not it doesn't matter what order it's in. If you have a positive times a negative or a negative times a positive, you'll get a negative. That's really all there is to it. So the next lesson will be division of real numbers. I hope everyone has a good day. Take care.